The crisp autumn breeze rustled through the trees as 12-year-old Michael Thompson made his way home from the Sterling Heights Public Library. His worn backpack, decorated with space-themed patches he'd collected over the years, was heavier than usual with borrowed books about robotics and engineering. The weight didn't bother him, though. Each book represented a new adventure, a new possibility to learn something extraordinary. Michael had spent the afternoon absorbing everything he could about artificial intelligence and machine learning. Mrs. Chen, the kind-hearted librarian who always saved the latest technology magazines for him, had introduced him to a fascinating article about medical robotics. The ideas were still swirling in his head as he hummed the theme song from his favorite science fiction show, Stellar Explorers. As he walked past Sterling Park, where the city's most successful businesses lined the streets with their gleaming buildings, something unusual caught his eye. A sleek, midnight blue luxury car was pulled over near the park's entrance. The vehicle wasn't just any car. It was the latest Model 23, a masterpiece of engineering that Michael had only seen in magazines. Its distinctive profile and aerodynamic design made it instantly recognizable. The owner, a distinguished-looking man in his early 50s, stood beside the vehicle with an expression that mixed confusion and frustration. His tailored charcoal suit and polished Oxford suggested he had just stepped out of one of the impressive office buildings nearby. What caught Michael's attention wasn't the man's obvious success, but rather the completely flat tire that had brought this technological marvel to a halt. Michael paused, adjusting his backpack straps as he observed the situation. His uncle Marcus's words echoed in his mind. Knowledge becomes wisdom when you use it to help others. Every Saturday for the past 2 years, Michael had been learning about cars at his uncle's repair shop, absorbing everything from basic maintenance to complex troubleshooting. What had started as a way to spend time with his favorite uncle had turned into a genuine passion for understanding how things worked. The businessman was now on his phone, probably calling for assistance, but Michael could tell from his gestures that help wouldn't be arriving anytime soon. Traffic whizzed by on the busy street, but no one seemed to notice or stop. Most people hurried past, wrapped up in their own concerns, while others merely slowed down to stare before continuing on their way. Michael thought about his mother's careful teachings about safety and talking to strangers. She had always emphasized using good judgment and trusting his instincts. This situation felt different. It was broad daylight, in a public place with plenty of people around. Plus, he genuinely wanted to help. Taking a deep breath and straightening his shoulders, Michael made his decision. He began walking toward the car, noticing how the afternoon sun reflected off its pristine surface. The closer he got, the more he could appreciate the vehicle's remarkable design features, the same ones he'd read about in last month's Future Tech magazine. "Excuse me, sir," Michael called out politely, his voice clear and confident despite his racing heart. "Do you need help with that tire?" The businessman turned around, surprise evident on his face as he looked at Michael. That moment, though neither of them knew it yet, would mark the beginning of an extraordinary journey, one that would change both their lives in ways they could never have imagined. James Harrison lowered his phone, studying the young boy who stood before him. His initial surprise gave way to curiosity as he noticed the determined look in Michael's eyes and the way he carried himself with quiet confidence. The businessman had spent decades reading people. It was part of what made him successful, and something about this child's demeanor caught his attention. "I help my uncle fix cars at his shop on weekends," Michael continued, gesturing toward the flat tire. "This looks like a simple fix, especially with the Model 23's built-in jack system." He paused, then added with a hint of enthusiasm, "That is, if you'd like my help, sir." Harrison's eyebrows rose slightly, impressed by the boy's knowledge of the vehicle model. He had been on his way to a board meeting when the tire gave out, and the roadside assistance service had quoted an hour's wait time. Looking at his watch, then back at Michael, he made a quick decision. "You know about the Model 23?" Harrison asked, his professional demeanor softening with interest. He noticed the engineering books peeking out of Michael's backpack, their worn edges suggesting frequent use. Michael's face lit up. Yes, sir. I read about it in Future Tech magazine. The self-leveling suspension system is revolutionary, and the integrated tire pressure monitoring should have warned you before the flat. Unless. He walked closer to the tire, carefully examining it. Ah, there's a nail. That would cause a sudden flat, even with the smart systems. Harrison found himself chuckling despite his earlier frustration. Well, you certainly know your stuff. I'm James Harrison. He introduced himself, extending his hand. Michael shook it firmly, just as his uncle had taught him. I'm Michael Thompson, sir. If you open the trunk, we can get started. The Model 23 keeps its tools in a hidden compartment on the left side. Michael's matter-of-fact tone carried no trace of showing off. He simply wanted to help. As Harrison pressed the trunk release, he watched Michael efficiently locate the compartment and begin laying out the necessary tools. The boy's movements were practiced and precise, reminding Harrison of the mechanics at his company's research facility. First, we should engage the electronic parking brake and put it in park mode, Michael explained, pointing to the dashboard. The car's computer needs to know we're working on it, or it might try to auto-level while we're using the jack. Harrison walked to the driver's side, following Michael's instructions. You mentioned your uncle's shop. Does he specialize in electric vehicles? Michael shook his head while checking the stability of the surface under the car. No, sir, mostly standard cars. But I love learning about new technology, so I study everything I can find about modern vehicles. The library has great resources, and Mrs. Chen, she's the librarian, always saves the latest tech magazines for me. As they worked together, Harrison observed how Michael broke down complex procedures into clear, manageable steps. The boy's enthusiasm for technology was genuine, but it was his methodical approach and natural teaching ability that truly stood out. Now we need to position the jack at the reinforced point, Michael demonstrated, pointing to a specific spot under the car. The Model 23 has special lifting points marked with green indicators. See them? That's another safety feature they added in this year's model. Harrison nodded, realizing that this chance encounter was becoming far more interesting than he had anticipated. In his years as a tech company CEO, he had learned that innovation and talent could appear in the most unexpected places, and this young boy was proving to be remarkably exceptional. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the pavement as Michael and Harrison worked together on the tire. The initial awkwardness had dissolved into a comfortable rhythm, their conversation flowing naturally between technical observations and shared interests. Michael's eyes sparkled with excitement as he noticed more details about the car's advanced features. The self-leveling system actually helps make tire changes safer, Michael explained, carefully monitoring the jack's position. See how the display shows the weight distribution. That's to prevent the car from tilting unexpectedly. He pointed to the dashboard screen, which displayed a detailed diagram of the vehicle's stance. Harrison leaned in to look, genuinely impressed by Michael's understanding. You seem to know more about this car's systems than some of our salespeople, he remarked. How did you learn so much about vehicle technology? Michael smiled while loosening the lug nuts in the correct star pattern. I read everything I can find, sir. The library has amazing technical manuals, and I watch a lot of engineering videos online at school during lunch break. Plus, he added with a hint of pride, my uncle lets me help diagnose problems at his shop using the computer system. As they worked, Harrison noticed how Michael's hands, though young, moved with the confidence of someone who truly understood what they were doing. The boy wasn't just repeating memorized steps. He grasped the underlying principles of the machinery. Tell me more about your interest in robotics, Harrison prompted, gesturing to the books visible in Michael's backpack. I noticed you have advanced robotics, principles, and applications in there. Michael's face lit up even more. Oh, that book is fascinating. I'm especially interested in the chapter about medical assistance robots. Did you know they're developing robots that can help patients with physical therapy? He carefully placed the flat tire aside. I've been working on a small project at home, trying to build a basic robotic arm from recycled parts. Harrison raised his eyebrows, intrigued. A robotic arm? That's quite ambitious. What inspired that particular project? While positioning the spare tire, Michael explained, "My younger sister had to spend time in the hospital last year. I noticed how hard it was for some patients to reach things on their own, especially at night when they didn't want to bother the nurses. I thought a simple robotic helper could make a big difference." The genuine compassion in Michael's voice struck Harrison. Here was a young boy who didn't just see technology as cool gadgets. He saw it as a way to help others. It reminded Harrison of his own early days, tinkering with computers in his parents' garage, dreaming of making a difference in the world. "That's really thoughtful," Harrison said softly, helping to align the spare tire. "Have you made much progress with the design?" Michael nodded enthusiastically. "I've got the basic movement working using servo motors from old toy cars. The tricky part is programming it to respond to voice commands. I'm learning Python in my free time to figure it out." He paused, then added with a slight chuckle, "My room looks like a robot hospital right now. Parts everywhere." As they secured the last lug nut, Harrison found himself increasingly fascinated by this young innovator. In his position as CEO, he had interviewed countless engineers and developers, but rarely had he encountered such a pure, unbridled passion for technology, combined with a genuine desire to help others. Michael's creativity in overcoming resource limitations with determination and ingenuity was exactly the kind of spirit that drove true innovation. As they finished securing the spare tire, an unexpected challenge arose. The Model 23's sophisticated computer system flashed a warning light on the dashboard, requiring a sensor reset after the tire change. Michael's eyes lit up at this new puzzle. "Don't worry, Mr. Harrison," he said confidently, reaching for his backpack. "I read about this in the technical bulletin last month. The new safety features need calibration after any wheel change." He pulled out a small notebook filled with careful drawings and notes, flipping to a specific page. Harrison watched with growing amazement as Michael walked him through the reset procedure, explaining each step with remarkable clarity. "Press the settings icon, then vehicle maintenance," Michael guided. "Now we'll need to access the tire calibration submenu. It's actually a clever safety feature. It ensures the car's autonomous systems have accurate data about the new tire." "You keep very detailed notes," Harrison observed, noticing the precise diagrams in Michael's notebook. "That's a valuable habit in any field." Michael nodded, a slight blush crossing his face. "My mom always says good notes are like having a second brain. I started this notebook when I first began helping at Uncle Marcus's shop." He carefully turned a page, revealing more technical drawings. "These are some of my robot designs too." Harrison's curiosity piqued. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the notebook. Michael hesitated for just a moment before handing it over, watching nervously as the CEO examined his work. The pages revealed much more than simple doodles. They contained carefully thought-out mechanical designs, complete with mathematical calculations in the margins. One particular drawing caught Harrison's eye, a detailed sketch of a robotic arm with annotations about servo motors and grip pressure calculations. "This is impressive work," Harrison said softly, turning the pages with genuine interest. "You've considered safety features, power consumption, even user interface design. These are aspects that many experienced engineers sometimes overlook." Michael shifted his weight, both proud and slightly embarrassed by the praise. "I try to think about how real people will use it," he explained. "Like my sister's friend Tommy at the hospital. He has limited mobility in his right arm, so any helper robot would need controls he could use with his left hand." The mention of the hospital project reminded Harrison of something. "Earlier you mentioned learning Python for voice commands. Have you considered using natural language processing libraries?" Michael's eyes widened. "I read about those. but most of the good ones need expensive licenses or powerful computers. He paused, then added with determination, I'm trying to build a simpler version using free resources, but it's challenging. Harrison checked his watch, realizing that nearly an hour had passed, his board meeting long forgotten. But as he looked at the young boy's passionate expression, he knew this chance encounter was far more important than any meeting. You know, Michael, Harrison said thoughtfully, our company has a research lab dedicated to artificial intelligence and robotics. We're actually working on similar healthcare assistance projects. He watched as Michael's eyes grew even wider. Would you be interested in seeing some of that work? The moment hung in the air, filled with possibility. Harrison could see the wheels turning in Michael's mind, his natural caution warring with his overwhelming curiosity. This was the kind of raw talent and genuine passion that Harrison had always believed would shape the future of technology. Not just the ability to build things, but the desire to build things that truly helped people. Michael stood quietly for a moment, processing Harrison's offer. His fingers unconsciously traced the worn edges of his notebook as he gathered his thoughts. The setting sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, reminding him that his mother would be expecting him home soon. The research lab sounds amazing, Mr. Harrison, Michael said carefully, his voice filled with both excitement and thoughtful consideration. But I should probably talk to my mom first. She always says that good opportunities are worth discussing as a family. Harrison smiled warmly, impressed by the boy's maturity. That's very wise, Michael. Family support is crucial. He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a business card, its silver lettering catching the evening light. I'm the CEO of Tomorrow Technologies. We're actually the company that develops the AI systems for these Model 23s. Michael's eyes widened as he accepted the card with both hands, treating it like a precious artifact. Tomorrow Technologies. You created the Neural Assistant Program. His voice rose with excitement. I read about your company's work in medical robotics. Your team developed the smart care system that helps nurses monitor multiple patients at once. Harrison chuckled at Michael's encyclopedic knowledge. You certainly do your research. Yes, that's one of our projects. But what many people don't know is that some of our best innovations came from young minds like yours. People who saw problems and dreamed up creative solutions. Michael studied the business card intently. My dream is to create robots that make a real difference, he shared, his voice growing more confident. Not just fancy machines, but helpers that any hospital could afford. I've been sketching ideas for a basic model that could be built with readily available parts. Harrison leaned against his car, genuinely intrigued. Tell me more about this affordable robot concept. Michael's face lit up as he opened his notebook again. Well, I noticed that many medical robots are expensive because they try to do too many things at once. But what if we made simpler, specialized helpers? He flipped to a detailed drawing. This design focuses on just 3 essential functions: reaching, gripping, and carrying small items. By limiting the features, we could make it more reliable and much less expensive. Harrison examined the drawing with growing admiration. The design was simple yet clever, showing an intuitive understanding of both engineering constraints and practical needs. You've even included cost estimates for the components, he noted, spotting the carefully listed prices in the margin. Yes, sir. Uncle Marcus taught me that every good project needs a realistic budget. Michael pointed to his calculations. I've been researching ways to use recycled smartphone motors for the joint controls. They're precise enough for small movements and much cheaper than specialized servos. The CEO straightened up, making a decision. Michael, our company has a youth mentorship program for exceptional students interested in technology. We provide resources, guidance, and access to our development labs. He paused, watching the boy's reaction. Based on what I've seen today, I think you'd be a perfect candidate. The possibilities of such an opportunity danced in Michael's eyes, but his response remained thoughtful. That sounds incredible, Mr. Harrison. Would it be okay if I took your card and discussed it with my mom tonight? She works the evening shift at the hospital, but she'll be home later. Harrison nodded approvingly, increasingly impressed by Michael's balanced approach to this life-changing opportunity. This young boy possessed not just technical brilliance, but also the emotional intelligence and family values that would serve him well in any future endeavor. As the evening settled in, the street lamps began to flicker to life along Sterling Park. Harrison checked his phone, noting several missed calls from the board meeting he had forgotten entirely. Somehow, this roadside conversation with a remarkable young innovator seemed far more important than quarterly projections. Before we wrap up, Michael, I'd like to tell you something about tomorrow technologies that isn't in the magazines, Harrison said, his tone becoming personal. 20 years ago, I was a lot like you. A kid with big dreams and limited resources. The only difference was, I didn't have an uncle's shop to learn in or a supportive librarian saving magazines for me. Michael listened intently, his notebook clutched close to his chest. The business card in his hand felt like a key to possibilities he'd only dreamed about. Someone took a chance on me, Harrison continued, straightening his tie thoughtfully. My high school science teacher noticed I had a knack for computers. She introduced me to a local tech company owner, who eventually became my mentor. That connection changed everything. A gentle breeze rustled through the nearby trees as Harrison reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sleek tablet. Our youth mentorship program isn't just about access to labs and equipment, Michael. It's about creating opportunities for bright minds like yours to flourish. He powered on the tablet and pulled up a presentation. Here's what the program includes: weekly sessions with our engineering team, access to our development facilities, and participation in our summer innovation camp. We also provide the necessary equipment for home projects. Michael's eyes widened as he saw images of young people working with advanced robotics equipment. Is that a neural interface testing lab?" he asked, pointing to one of the photos. Harrison smiled. "Good eye. Yes, that's where we develop our medical assistance systems. The same ones you read about." He swiped to another screen. "We also have a scholarship component for education expenses." "Mr. Harrison," Michael said carefully, his voice filled with mix of excitement and responsibility. "This is amazing, but why me? There must be lots of kids who'd want this opportunity." Harrison closed the tablet and looked directly at Michael. "Because in just 1 hour, you've shown me something rare. You don't just understand technology, you see its potential to help people. That combination of technical skill and compassion is exactly what we look for." He pulled out another card, this one with a different email address. "This is my personal contact. Once you've talked with your mother, have her reach out to me directly. We can schedule a proper meeting with both of you to discuss all the details." Michael accepted the second card with the same reverence as the first. "Thank you, sir. I promise to make good use of this opportunity if my mom approves." "I have no doubt you will," Harrison replied, then added with a warm smile. "And Michael, thank you for stopping to help today. Not many people would have taken the time." As they prepared to part ways, Michael carefully packed his notebook away, his mind already racing with possibilities. The sunset had painted the sky in deep purples now, and the first stars were beginning to appear. Standing under the streetlight, mentor and potential prodigy shared a moment of mutual respect. Two generations of innovators, connected by chance and united by a shared vision of technology's power to improve lives. The next morning, Sarah Thompson sat at her kitchen table, carefully examining the business cards her son had brought home. Michael stood nearby, trying to contain his excitement as he explained the previous day's events. His mother's night shift had ended early, and he barely slept, waiting to share everything with her. "And Mr. Harrison said the program would work around my school schedule," Michael explained, pulling out his notebook to show her his latest designs. "Plus, there's a whole section about medical robotics, Mom, just like what you've been talking about needing at the hospital." Sarah looked at her son with pride mixed with careful consideration. As a nurse, she understood better than most the impact technology could have on patient care. She'd watched Michael's interest in robotics grow from simple curiosity into something remarkable. "I looked up Tomorrow Technologies this morning," she said, turning her laptop around to show him the company's website. "They're doing impressive work, and their youth program has quite a reputation." She smiled warmly. "But what makes me proudest is how you handled this opportunity, waiting to discuss it as a family first." Michael beamed at his mother's words. "So, does that mean?" Sarah reached for her phone. "Let's call Mr. Harrison together." The meeting was scheduled for the following week at Tomorrow Technologies headquarters. Michael spent every evening until then organizing his notebook, preparing to show his ideas. His uncle Marcus helped him polish his presentation skills, offering tips from his years of running his own business. When the day arrived, Michael and his mother stood in awe before the sleek glass building. The security guard, already briefed about their arrival, welcomed them warmly. "Mr. Harrison is expecting you in the Innovation Center," she said, handing them visitor badges. The elevator rode smoothly to the 5th floor, opening into a space that exceeded even Michael's wildest dreams. Young inventors worked at various stations, surrounded by cutting-edge equipment. A group of teenagers was testing a prototype wheelchair that could climb stairs, while another team programmed a robotic teaching assistant. Harrison greeted them personally, dressed more casually than the day of the tire change. "Welcome to our Young Innovators Lab," he said, leading them on a tour. "This is where ideas become reality." Michael's eyes darted everywhere, taking in every detail. His hand itched to sketch the incredible devices he saw. A young mentor named David showed him a medical assistance robot, similar to what he'd been dreaming of building. "The best part about our program," Harrison explained to Sarah, "is that we encourage our young innovators to think beyond conventional solutions. We provide the resources, but they drive the innovation." As they discussed the program details, Michael found himself drawn to a workstation where a girl about his age was programming a voice-activated assistance device. She introduced herself as Sophia, a second-year participant in the program. "Want to see something cool?" she asked, gesturing to her project. It's a simplified version of their neural interface system, designed specifically for pediatric patients. The morning stretched into afternoon as Michael absorbed everything around him. His mother watched with joy as her son's face lit up with each new discovery. This wasn't just about access to expensive equipment or advanced training. It was about finding a place where his dreams could take flight. Harrison observed the scene with satisfaction. In Michael's enthusiasm and quick understanding, he saw the same spark that had driven his own journey from curious youngster to innovative leader. The mentorship program wasn't just about creating future engineers. It was about nurturing the problem solvers and dreamers who would shape tomorrow's world. 2 years later, Michael stood confidently before a packed auditorium at the National Youth Innovation Summit. The simple robot design he'd sketched in his notebook that fateful afternoon had evolved into something extraordinary, an affordable medical assistance device now being tested in 3 local hospitals. The journey began with a flat tire. Michael started, earning curious smiles from the audience. He glanced at Harrison, who sat in the front row beside his mother, both beaming with pride. But it was really about something bigger, about how a single moment of kindness can change everything. The presentation screen behind him displayed the latest version of his Helper Buddy robot, streamlined and practical. What made it special wasn't its complexity, but its simplicity and accessibility. By using recycled smartphone components and open-source technology, Michael had created a device that cost 1/10 of similar commercial units. "Our goal wasn't to make the most advanced robot," he explained, operating a demonstration unit that smoothly retrieved a water bottle from a bedside table. It was to create something that could help as many people as possible. The robot moved with gentle precision, specifically designed for patients with limited mobility. In the audience, nurses from his mother's hospital nodded appreciatively. They'd been essential beta testers, providing real-world feedback that helped refine the design. Michael had spent countless afternoons in the hospital's pediatric ward, observing, learning, and improving his creation. Tomorrow Technologies mentorship program provided the resources. Michael continued, but the real inspiration came from the patients and healthcare workers who shared their experiences with me. He clicked to the next slide, showing a young patient named Tommy using the helper buddy to pick up his book independently. Harrison watched with satisfaction, remembering that first conversation by the roadside. Michael had exceeded every expectation, but more importantly, he'd maintained his original vision, creating technology that made a real difference in people's lives. The presentation concluded with an announcement that brought tears to Sarah's eyes. Tomorrow Technologies would be partnering with 5 major children's hospitals to provide helper buddy units to their pediatric wards. Moreover, the design would be released as an open-source project, allowing other young innovators to build and improve upon it. After the applause died down, Michael joined a group of fellow young inventors in the reception area. Among them was Sophia, now one of his closest friends, who had integrated her voice control system into the helper buddy's interface. Their collaboration had sparked a whole new branch of accessible technology development at Tomorrow Technologies. "Your mom must be proud," Harrison said quietly, approaching Michael as the crowds mingled. "You've come a long way from that evening by Sterling Park." Michael smiled, fingering the worn edge of his original notebook, which he still carried everywhere. "I couldn't have done it without that flat tire, Mr. Harrison." "Actually," Harrison confessed with a twinkle in his eye, "I've been meaning to tell you something. That nail in my tire. I drove through a construction zone that morning. The warning system actually did alert me, but I was too busy with work calls to pay attention." They both laughed at the irony. Sometimes the best opportunities came from life's small mishaps. The mentorship program had grown significantly since Michael joined, now supporting 30 young innovators across the city. Each had their own dreams, their own projects, but all shared the same spirit: using technology to make the world a little better, one innovation at a time. As Michael looked around the room full of young inventors sharing ideas and dreams, he realized that this wasn't just his success story. It was proof that talent could be found in unexpected places, and that sometimes all it took was one person willing to stop and help, one person willing to look past appearances and see potential, to start a chain reaction of positive change.